Alright, welcome back to another episode of Life in Prison. My name is Zach, and today we got a real special guest. So I did a couple years with this man back in 2012 to like 2016, I think, until I got out. Summer, give or take. So anyways, so what's your name?
Darius Cook.
Alright, so let me ask you this. How many years have you done altogether throughout your lifetime?
7 years straight.
7 years straight? Which states did you do them in?
West Virginia. Did all my time in West Virginia. Jumped around a lot to a bunch of different prisons as I got lower classified, but it was all West Virginia.
Alright, so starting from first one in, alright, what were you classified and what prison did they first send you to?
Alright, started out at ERJ. I was there for 17 months because you don't go to prison fast at all. After that, I got classified at MRC. They started me as a 5 because, of course, I had 2 bank robberies. So I started as a 5 and I went straight to Huntsville Penitentiary gang unit for a year and a half.
B2?
Straight to B2, bro.
Welcome home. So let's back up a little bit. You said bank robbery, right? So if I'm not sure what, if your charges are still going on, if you can talk about it, divulge a little bit more into the whole bank robber thing, because I'm sure there's a lot of us on here that are, curious to how bank robbery goes about.
All right, there's a lot of different people out in the world. Some people, they'll get on drugs. They steal from their family. They'll steal from their sisters, brothers. I wouldn't do none of that. I wouldn't steal a penny from a family. So it went straight off the top, robbing drug dealers. Then it wasn't enough. So I figured the money was insured. I had it all justified in my head. The money's insured. I'm not gonna hurt nobody. I ran in a bank. I parked my car about a mile down the road, and I would run to the bank, hit the bank, run back, jump in the trunk, and I was paying this little, blonde hair college girl, paying her $1,000 just to do it. So I jump in the trunk. So as we're leaving past these cop cars, they're just seeing this little pretty blonde hair girl, and I'm in the trunk with the money.
So got away.
Got away.
All right. How much money did you get away with?
The first time was $14,000.
The first time. All right. So there's two bank robberies in this story.
I did prison time for 2. I was indicted on 4.
Whew. Okay. So for the ones that you did,
Yes.
you did time for, how much increments of money was each one? You said the 14, which that's a lot of money.
14,000, and then the second one that I actually did time for was 9,000, and they got all that back because it was in the trunk with me. But my restitution is 14,000 because they did not receive that, didn't get it back.
I'm not gonna lie. Some people, are you paying on restitution?
10 seconds, yes. It's just all you do is pay like $5 a month, and they leave you alone. But yeah.
All right, so got sent to Huntsville, straight to B2, gang infested. What prison did you go to next?
After I did the time in Huntsville, which was actually like a 3-year stay, I got reclassified. I dropped down, and I wanted to do the dog program, which is where you train service dogs, stuff like that. I did that at St. Mary's, and I was there for 2 years, and I loved it, man.
The only time I'd ever seen a dog thing was Mount Olive.
Mount Olive and St. Mary's.
And it's amazing. If no one knows what we're talking about, they train these service dogs. They come up, and from how it was in Mount Olive, they have to know 120 commands on cue before they go to the next location to learn more. And these dogs go from $30,000-$40,000 if you wanted to purchase it. But if you have a disability that need one, then it's then given to you. It's crazy. Plus, I'm sure it made your time go by too.
It did, but that's hard, man. When they take them dogs, I would train a dog for like 8 months, and they would just wake me up. Hey, pack the dog up. They're taking it, and that's rough, especially in prison, because that's your buddy.
You get you get like attached to this thing.
Heck
Plus, in prison, having a dog, it's not common. That's something you have to be very well behaved to be able to get into these programs to have these type of movements with these animals, or getting in a workshop making license plates and whatnot.
Which is almost impossible to do when you're in there, because for anything at all, somebody could steal something from you, you're forced to fight. Anything could happen to get you in trouble in prison. So when you get to the point you can do something like that, you're doing really good, man. That's why I took that immediately.
I feel like for a lot of people, it's a couple years in that they start having that drive to want to do stuff like that. Because
Yep.
a lot of people when they first go in, they are
You're thinking of a
wilding.
way to get out.
Wilding. You're mad at society. You're like, look, you're gonna respect me, and I'm sure it's all been downhill. So after the dog program, where'd you go to next?
At St. Mary's, I was actually caught bringing in fentanyl through the mail on pieces of paper. I was doing it for a while, making big money, thought I was the man or whatever, had the prison on lock. And of course, somebody did it, flipped out, and was running all over the yard, and they told on me. They came and checked all my stuff. They found more papers, which was coming from, they locked me down. They put me in a room immediately, locked me down all day, and shook me back to Huntinsville. I went back to Huntinsville in segregation, which if y'all don't know, it's a room the size of a bathroom with a toilet. The sink is on the back of the toilet, and then you got a bunk.
That'll make you go crazy. Hey, I bet you learned sign language, right?
Oh yeah, that's a big thing that we do learn in prison. Everybody signs. In the hole, all you can do is look out your door and you see everybody's doors and windows all day.
All
day.
you see is
That's how you talk.
hands and faces just talking, getting life out, just so you don't go crazy.
And this man right here, his hands move 100 miles a minute. He was fast, bro.
AdSec, too much AdSec time. So while you were up there on the gang unit, to get put on a behavioral dorm, you have to either be affiliated, catch a lot of write-ups, being a menace to society more or less,
Yep.
or you big beefy and you running shit. So you don't have to answer anything, but do you know why you was moved up to B2?
I do actually. In the regional, like I said, man, I was there for 17 months, and you can't go anywhere in the world that's a new place for you, where you're in a pod with 30 other men who are upset, mad, angry. They're fiending for drugs. You can't go nowhere and do 17 months in a place like that without fighting. So I continued to get in fights, whether it be over the remote, and yes, in jail and prison, you fight over the remote. So I was fighting over the remote. People being disrespectful over the phones, people just being disrespectful. I constantly kept fighting. So when I got classified, that was a big issue. They said that I was violent, which, I'm not a violent person at all. I did my bank robberies, never hurt nobody, but you're forced to be in jail and prison. And if you can't turn into that person, you're literally eaten by the people that's there. They're going to rob you, extort you. So I had to fight, man. I did a lot of holidays in the hole. It's depressing, But that's what happened. And when I got classified, all those fights ended up landing me on a gang unit for a year and a half. First ever being in prison, year and a half on a gang unit in West Virginia's worst penitentiary.
Oh my God, Robin
crazy,
Miller
bro.
was the worst. With a nice little Joe Dirt mullet, but I'm gonna call it Debbie Dirt. Think of Joe Dirt's mom, Debbie Dirt. She had that going on.
This woman is
Big
huge.
Brodunsky.
She was
real
hitting
big.
315. They said she got there and hit 315 on the weight pile.
She was maxing me out.
It's crazy, bro.
I rep your max. But let me get them cakes real quick.
There was a guy that he was crazy. He didn't give a shit. He was actually a gangster disciple, and he's running around the pod. He'd mess with everybody all day. And there's another guy up there they call OG. Well, he messed with this guy, and this guy was chasing him around the pod with a knife in his hand, about this long, just chased him around the pod. And the other guy's running, laughing at him because he couldn't catch him. So he gets the mop stick and he starts cracking him with this. All after it's done, it wasn't really that bad, but for me to see somebody running from somebody who wants to take their life and laughing, that was messed up. But the worst thing I seen was on the RSAT unit. It was two guys. They were actually friends. The one guy, the guy was sleeping. He wanted an ice cream, so he didn't want to wake him up. So he went ahead and ate his ice cream while he was asleep. Guy woke up the next morning, wanted his ice cream, was gone. Everybody told him, he grabbed it, blah, blah, blah. So he goes and heats up grease and coffee in the microwave, bro, for like 10 minutes. We're all watching it. We knew it was coming. This guy's sleeping with we sleep with toboggans on our face sometimes to block the lights because they got bright LEDs. He hit this guy with this coffee and this grease. It melted the hat to his face, so he's pulling it off. And as soon as he hit him with the grease, he had a lock on the belt, bro. He just starts whack him. As soon as he burnt him. He's splitting him everywhere and everywhere. So after all that, the guy gets up off the bed. He's tearing his legs up with this lock. And this is stuff that breaks your bones. When locks hit your bones like that, eventually he leaps at him and locks him up. And they're locked up on the wall. And he's telling him to drop the lock. He wouldn't drop it. So he bites his entire bottom lip off the man's face. And this is 5:30 in the morning. That's how it is in prison. There's no times and afternoon and we're going to meet here.
When you got a bunch of people just trapped in one spot, anxiety, anger, resentment, everything's bottled up. Eventually,
Tension all day.
Tension all day. A bunch of dudes. Sometimes, like the drama that happens in prison, it's worse than high school.
Yeah, it's like females.
It is worse. It's worse. It like a lie. I only did 5 years.
You
But
did
I had
bad
fun.
5 years, bro. But
I
you
had
had
fun.
some you had some problems too. You was on don't just cause this man sitting over here asking me the question, don't get it wrong. This man's an animal right here. He done been through it too. So one day one of us gonna interview him.
Don't get me wrong, it was very stressful, and I don't wish it upon anybody. That's why, I want to do this, to try to get people to, see that
It's real.
this is real stuff.
Yes.
And everyone's got a different story, but, we're all human. We're on the same earth. We're all trying to make it. You can make it even if you mess up, but if you've never messed up,
Man.
try not to go down that route. Never should have done it. Snape.
Oh man.
So,
Snape or Schnaper is K2 sprayed on paper, which we would get in the mail. And me and this man would sit right in the middle of the pod and smoke it.
they would take the spice, the K2 crystals, do some stuff with it, and it'd make it a liquid. They'd spray it on paper,
Thick
and
as you want.
yeah, mail it in. And think of a piece of paper like this size, okay? You could break it up into about 10
Oh, man.
10
Yes.
to 12 license size ID cards. Over $1,000 easy for a piece of paper. And the effect that it had was it got you high like marijuana would, a couple hours, 5, 6, 7, 8 hours, but it would take you from here and then skyrocket you
Yes.
up to the moon.
And the buzzes weren't always the same. Sometimes
Never the
people
same.
would lose it. Naked, running through the pod, screaming, swimming on the ground. But we loved it.
If only we had cameras. Like if we had cell phones in there, we could sit there at the phones or at the picnic tables. Metal picnic tables got inside the pod. Just sit there and watch people all day. Snape watching.
Getting stuff tattooed on their face.
Oh,
I knew a guy who
man.
got the Wonder Woman symbol tattooed on his face because this stuff would make you withdraw. Now, when you didn't have it, you were sick, throwing up, diarrhea. It was the same thing like heroin, but you were smoking this paper.
Unless the administrative knew the specific chemical compound for it, they couldn't test you for it. So when they test you for this K2 spice, it'd come up negative.
Yeah.
So you could literally be smoking. They call you over the loudspeaker to go down to intake,
Laughing at him the whole time.
put your stuff in a cup in pee form. They're like, all right, well, you're not going to get any mail. We're going to photocopy everything.
But at Huntinsville Correctional Center, they switched it to where they were putting us in the hole just for having red eyes. If you had red
Oh.
eyes, you were going to the hole. And you could have allergies, you could be tired, whatever, but they knew what it was. So if they caught you with red eyes, you were going to the hole for 30 days.
Hit no matter what. If you had a love letter in your pocket, you're
Yeah.
going to the hole.
Scared to have paper in your pocket.
Scared. So while you were up there, how many write-ups have you accumulated through your time of imprisonment?
Man, to be honest, it wasn't a lot like people would think. Like, the way I look and acted was not a lot, but the ones that I had were serious. They were all serious. They were all class 1s, which, in prison a class 2 can get you 30 days. A class 1, you're usually doing 60 days, or you may get ADSEG. So the ones that I got were either always fighting, trafficking, or really that was it. It was fighting and trafficking. Those are the big write-ups that I had. So I probably had, when I finally made parole, between 10 and 15. But they were all serious.
Class 1. It's
Class 1.
automatically you're doing 60 days. And if
Yep.
it's too serious, then once again they're going to add to you, and they can hold you from 60 days all the way till as long as they deem necessary until they
Yep.
want to let you out. And if they think that it's gang related or it doesn't matter, you're going to stay back there until they figure things out.
I did good for a long period of time. They actually stuck me in the RSAT program they sent me to Beckley. Beckley is a work release / RSAT penitentiary. It does not have a fence. Once you get your classification lower to a 2 or lower, you can go to a prison with no fence. When they brought me there, as soon as I stepped out the van, they piss tested me. I failed.
Ooh.
I had sabot immediately, man. As soon as I stepped out, I failed. So, they tore all my stuff up, and the woman told me, if you can pass a drug screen in 6 to 7 days. We'll keep you here. And I was telling her there's no way possible. It's in my system. So I did the 6, 7 days. They tested me. I failed. I knew I was going to fail. So they sent me back to Huntinsville, and I actually did the RSAT program at Huntinsville. But the crazy part of that story is, they checked all my stuff. I mean, tore everything apart. And I had everything that I had brought with me. I had stuff somewhere. So I had all my stuff. Nothing bad happened except for when I got back to Huntinsville, I had to do 30 days in the hole. But that was that. I did the RSAT unit at Huntinsville that time. I completed it. I was the senior elder man. I was facilitating groups. They loved me. And I completed the program and actually stayed on that dorm, bro, for 2 more months after I completed. So I did that, and then finally they were like, you have to go, your classification's so low, and they sent me to Stevens Center. It's like a trap house. You walk in, they got ice for dirt cheap, they got Suboxone for dirt cheap, and in all these other prisons, it's $50 for an eighth of a Suboxone. So I got to Stevens, and it was $200 for a whole one. Mm-hmm. So I'm fresh out of this drug program, doing great, and then here I am with all these drugs in my face. Worst thing they could have did for me. It was actually a very hard time, but that's where I ended up making parole from.
What do you feel would have been the pettiest write-up you had ever received? Do you have one in particular?
Actually, I do, and it was actually what I said. In prison, you're allowed to have like this many sodas, this many soups, and I was walking through the hallway, and I had a pen in this pocket, just a normal big pen, not a clicky pen or nothing. I was actually thrown against the wall. They wanted to pat my pockets, which is normal in prison. You get so used to that, you don't even care anymore. You jump right on the wall for them. They found the pen and wrote me up for contraband, and then when I went to see the magistrate, they said, because there's a magistrate in prison, you basically go to court for your write-ups. They said that the pen had been taken apart in a way that they could tell that I had made it a shank, which I had not. So they hit me with a class 1, and I did 60 days for an extra pen in my pocket.
So, during your time of incarceration, did you ever hold any prison jobs?
I did, actually. At Huntinsville, I wanted to get off of this gang unit so bad because it was nothing but tension all day. I took a janitor's job. So every morning I would wake up, I would sweep the hallway, and I would sweep the crossover. What's called the crossover at Huntinsville, there's 2 sides of the prison. What was it, north and south side?
North and south.
And there's a big hallway that links these 2 parts of the prison called the crossover. There's no cameras in that, that's where people would go to bang or you get sucker punched, whatever. But so everywhere you went, you come down 4 flights of steps, up 4 flights of steps. It don't matter if it's 5:30 in the morning for breakfast, whatever. That's what's in your head. So if you want to eat breakfast in the morning, you got to listen for chow, jump up, get dressed, run to the chow hall, and make it there within 5 minutes or you're not allowed to eat. At first, when I was there, you had to keep a clean-shaven face, and then if you had any stubble, they were rejecting your food. You were not allowed to eat because you had to shave.
Let me ask you this. What's one of the most, since I'm sure you might have a few, what's some of the most violent things you've ever seen while being incarcerated?
All right, before I even say this, it's real messed up, y'all. When y'all's in prison, you see so much grotesque and brutal beatings. You get numb inside to where you don't even care no more. You just think it's normal. But on this one day, man, and they get crazy over poker. In prison, poker is, don't play poker if you don't know how to fight. It's the 2 from Mount Olive, of course. The one guy didn't fold his hand. And the guy's, talking or whatever. And out of nowhere, this guy reaches in his pants and hits him. He backhands him. Everybody thinks he just punched him. Backhands him like this in his face. We all thought he got hit. He looked at us, his eyeball was coming out. He stabbed him in the eye with a screwdriver. And that means the screwdriver was in his eye and the side of his hand, pushing out his seat. That's how bad that was. And then it didn't stop there because in prison, the guards don't always see this stuff. It usually escalates. So once that happened, the other guy pulls his knife out. Now there's a knife fight going on in the middle of a pod in prison. And we didn't know what to do. Like, you want to help, you want to stop, but you can't because you'll get stabbed or you'll go to the hole for being an accessory to this. So, man, these guys are knife fighting in the pod. He got stabbed in the chest, the eye, the back. We just had to watch the whole thing till it got broke up, and it finally got to the point where they stopped because the guy's eyeball was actually swelling out of his head. So they stopped each other. But that's one. Another one, a close friend of mine on the gang unit got stabbed up. You know what I'm talking about. They ran in on that guy, and dude almost killed him. There's different factions of gangs up there. So one gang was trying to run in on one guy, but this one guy had already been to Moundsville, Mount Olive, So they run in, you know, the close friend of mine's ducked down. He has a sharpened fan blade like this. He hit him in the back of his neck, and he hit him in his back. When he hit him in the back, it came out the front. It punctured his lung, almost severed his brain stem. This is all stuff, man, like people get stabbed and then they come out and they're like, I'm fine. And they're turning pale and green because they're bleeding out, getting ready to die, and they think they're fine. Street, yes.
That's stuff you see on TV and you think, you know,
It don't happen.
It's never gonna happen. I'm just gonna put in this one time. I think one of the craziest things that I had ever seen being incarcerated was my second or third day up at Mount Olive, and I didn't personally see it in action. I'd seen the aftermath. I'm just gonna say there was a sex offender that had, you know, said something to the wrong person, and you know, just so happened that the person had a friend who was doing life in prison anyways. What his intention was after the fact, he said the dude with the knife said that he wanted to take dude's head off and walk with it off the weight pile as like a trophy type situation. I mean, you'd go down as one of the most feared, respected mans in the penitentiary at the time. But as he said, it's stuff like that. It's an everyday thing, you know. Yeah. Even if you're not about that life, the dude that's sitting in the cell beside you is more than willing to go there.
Buddy. Your cell buddy might be willing to cut your throat in your sleep, so you can't even sleep comfortably. You can't go to the bathroom comfortably. You know, the big thing in prison is when you do a number 2, you take one of your legs out of your pants in case somebody runs in on you while you're doing your thing, or have somebody watch your back while you're in the shower. The people that I actually kept around me, that was one thing we had to do. If you went to the shower, you had to tell somebody so they could watch your back while you showered.
After the eye poke thing, have you ever been in a situation where you had to use a knife?
In prison, you know, you get weird about telling certain things, but I'm out of prison, you know, I didn't get in trouble for whatever, but yeah, I did actually. There was a really big gang thing going on, and I don't like to talk about it or whatever, but you know, in prison there's different factions, you know, and if one person gets in it, you're in it. Regardless of what you want, you're in it. And if you don't go, whatever faction is around you that you're a part of, they're going to come for you. So this dumb dude, not knowing, you know, they were deep. They were about 50, 80 people deep. And the faction that I actually was a part of, there was only 4 or 5 of us. We didn't move like that. We didn't have big groups of numbers. We moved by respect. And you know how we were looked at by people. That's how we moved. And we were respected. They come in the cell. We're in the cell watching TV, so they already got us. You know, they already snuck us. I'm watching TV. He's laying on his bunk. They come rushing in the cell. They try to tell me to stay out of it. That's something that I can't do. I cannot do that because of you know, the things I believe in, my laws and rules. And in the midst of all this going on, one of them dropped their knife. So, you know, and they normally tie it to their wrist. This guy didn't. He didn't know that yet. So the knife is laying on the floor in front of me. You know, I'm not exaggerating when I say there was every bit of 15 to 20 people that came down to do this deed. And nobody's little in prison. Everybody's big. Everybody lifts weights. So I picked it up and I just started poking whoever I could, man. And it got to the point where I was poking everybody real good. They left him alone, and they seen that I was ready to keep going, so they left us alone.
So you got, you know, 10, 15 big gorilla dudes,
yes,
you know,
everybody's big
fighting. You know, it's not going to go that long. You swinging and knock anybody and everybody out. So, or someone's got a knife and it's over what is over, and hope to God that they don't get you while you sleeping. Because I mean, there's some dudes that went in for 1 to 5 and that are never getting out ever again. So, you know, with us having the opportunity of being free again, I mean, I feel like it's my duty just to try to work as anything that I can to try to succeed in life, because life is not easy.
Man, it ain't easy at all, man.
2021 is after 2020 anyways. It started kind of doing like this, but hey, that's it is what it is, I guess.
So as long as you keep positive people with you, man, you're going to do good. But you got to keep positive people with you.
You got to want it, too.
Exactly.
You can have positive people around you. You're going to have to want it. Keep positive people around you. And with that being said, what I want you to do is keeping a positive attitude. Help me out by hitting that subscribe button. hit that notification button so you're first informed when I upload, and keep your heads up with nothing but love, Lord, and respect coming your way. I hope you guys have a nice day. All right? Take it easy.